Back when I was on antidepressants, I made a number of videos talking about how I did not have a libido, how my libido was virtually non-existent, and I explored this in multiple different ways. I talked about how maybe that means that I'm a submissive because well, if you don't have a libido, then you can sort of let someone else do all of the work. That was one avenue I tried to go down to rectify the broader problem of not having a libido. But once I actually got off of those medications and had been off of them for several months, my libido came back. And I became the person that I used to be, which was very dominant, very sexually excited, and in general in need of a great amount of stimulation. I mean, masturbating 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a day, as I have for much of my life. And of course, now that I'm married, I have sex with my wife at least once a day, but usually twice or 3 times a day. I've had sex with her literally hundreds of times. There have been days when we had sex literally 5 times in one day. And in past relationships or just friendships with people I've went and visited and hung out with where there was some mutual attraction between us, usually trans women, because they're autistic and I'm autistic, and autistic people tend to be attracted to one another, and so it makes sense that I would be attracted to trans women and trans women would be attracted to me. A lot of them have been trans, and a lot of them have been trans people who want dick, and I've given them dick, and it's a very satisfying thing for me because when I see bodies that have curvature, that look feminine, my immediate response is, I want to put a baby in that. I want to breed that. And at times, it can be annoying. Like, at times, not only is it distracting, it's like, no, I don't want to be thinking like this. I want to be thinking about what the other person is saying, and I need to be a good person right now. And that can be hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie here. I'm not gonna cap for you guys. That can be hard for me. But I put in a lot of mental effort to just be normal while being like this. To just be someone who can function in the presence of women, both trans and cis, or in the presence of very feminine men who have this curvature and these areas that arouse this like breeding desire in me. It's tough, man, but I'm able to do it, and I'm able to do it because I can cognitively reframe what's happening. So those feelings will get aroused, but I will instantly refocus my attention as I notice that that's happening, and I'll engage more. So one form of engagement could be asking more questions, responding more directly to the things that the other person is saying to show engagement with what they are saying, you know, to show that you care about what they're saying, and not just like staring at their breasts or their ass or something. And that helps refocus my attention. But that like non-focused, latent hypersexuality is always there with me. And it's a huge component to how I interact with the world. And in order to just function in the world, I either have to have a lot of sex or masturbate a lot. Usually it's a lot of sex, because once I got with my wife and I started having sex all the time instead of just occasionally, like when I would go to meet up with a trans chick that I was friends with, or a feminine guy that I was friends with, or when I went on a date with a cis girl and it ended up going that way. These things were rare occurrences. I didn't have the funds to be jumping all over the place to go have sex with all these different people who want to have sex with me. And so when I actually started living with someone whom I am very attracted to and also has a high sex drive, that was really good for me, because most of the time masturbation alone does not cut it. Jerking off does not cut it. I need to be having sex, because having sex just feels that much better. It just feels that much better. I don't know what it is about it that stimulates me so much more, that keeps me hard, but when I'm masturbating, I'll have to do it multiple times a day, but I'll be spending way more time doing it because I won't be able to remain excited for as long of a period of time, which makes it hard to actually get the thing done. I remember one time when I was riding a Greyhound bus to Las Vegas, Nevada. I was 16 years old at the time, and I had been on the bus from Maine. If you know the geography of the United States, Maine is the most far northeast point you can get. Las Vegas, Nevada is in the Pacific time zone, so it's on the west. It's not on the coast, but it's on the border with California, so that's a long bus ride. I had been seeing all of these different women around, also guys around that I was attracted to, and it was really, really tough for me. And so I just went into the bus's bathroom and I started looking at porn on my phone and masturbating. And I thought the mechanism for the door was properly locked. And no, it was not locked. The door came wide open and I was found like that, masturbating. Someone just saw me masturbating on this bus. It was like an older man. He looked so mad at me. And I just screamed, "No, get out," and he slammed the door. That's where this stuff gets you, man. Now, thankfully, as I've aged, I haven't had to resort to those tactics on my long trips. When I'm on a Greyhound bus for 3 or 4 days, these days, I can make it. I don't have to get in the Greyhound bathroom. Those things are fucking disgusting. And I don't have to get in the bus bathroom either and risk a situation like that arising. But man, there have been a couple times when I've been traveling where the airport bathroom, I had to do it, you know? I could not hold it in any longer. But in general, I think I'm better about this stuff these days, even though it's still a very prominent aspect of my life. But it's not a bad prominent aspect of my life, because my wife wants to satisfy me, is capable of satisfying me, and it's one of the biggest ways that we connect with each other. Of course, we have similar interests, and she's a very intriguing person to talk to. We work great emotionally, but the sexual component to our relationship is a huge factor on how we bond. And I think that also ends up playing out in how we relate to one another socially. So I'm very dominant with her sexually, but I'm also very dominant with her socially. And she just likes that. Like, the sort of compliant way that she'll behave with me is something that seems to bring her a great amount of spiritual and mental fulfillment. And of course it goes the other way for me. So that creates a dynamic that is symbiotic, you know. So I have a very high libido. There was a time when I did not, but at this point, having a very high libido doesn't seem to be an issue. It actually seems to be really good.
Don't be sad today, brave the pain away.
Having like a terrible day, I'll tell you folks, it's not going great for me emotionally, and I'm not even entirely sure why. I'm not sure why this is occurring, but I figured I would get the dishes out and try and make a meal for my wife because I wanted to do a nice thing for her. I wrote her a poem in the form of a letter and handed it to her because I wanted to do a nice thing for her. And then I thought, well, maybe if I cook spaghetti and give that to her because she likes my spaghetti a lot, you know, I can do another nice thing for her. But I found myself just standing here staring at these dishes and these ingredients, and it made me think about something. Aside from the fact that I'm depressed and that I've been depressed today, it made me think about filth. It made me think about not having things organized in a particular way. Because if you take a glance at my videos, at times it may appear like my room is disorganized, but in my mind it's not. In my mind, everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. And the moment that it gets moved, it's like a bomb goes off in my head. I am triggered into a rage. And as the years have gone on, I have developed techniques to reduce the extent to which that rage is externalized. But there are times when enough stuff gets moved or bothered at once that, like, I literally lock up, like I just fall on the floor and start hitting myself in the leg and screaming because I'm so upset about the stuff being moved. And I see the same thing with organization or cleanliness more broadly. Like, people might see me as uncleanly, but I think part of the reason why I can be uncleanly sometimes is because I'm so anxiously preoccupied with the notion of cleanliness itself that I struggle to do the task. Of course, these days I'm very clean. I've gotten on schedule with that. That aspect of my behavior has been resolved. It's been rectified. But to speak in the past tense here, you know, this broader mental health problem that I'm talking about was stymieing my efforts at being cleanly, like as a person, with my own person. And it was because I was so obsessed with doing it right, the exact right ways. I would spend fucking hours in the shower trying to do things the exact right way. And it would leave me paralyzed with anxiety if I couldn't. And so if I did it, I had to do it right. And either way, I was going to be paralyzed with anxiety. And when I see myself in situations like this, with dishes before me, I start to think about what they're going to look like after they've been used. You know, after these dishes have been used, they will be dirty. I will have to wash them. And that stresses me out. Not a lot. It's not to a huge extent. Most days, I'm capable of just doing the thing, you know, and getting the job done. But today I feel like I'm experiencing a sort of latent, nascent state of decay. And it's not great. They're not sending their best. Or I'm not sending my best today, rather. But I think if I can pull myself together to make a video like this and talk about what I'm experiencing, I can pull myself together enough to make spaghetti for my wife. So that's what I'm gonna do now.